All right, there we go.
Okay, perfect.
All right, college debate versus high school debate. Anyone want to take a go?
Yeah, so one thing I've noticed that's different between college and high school debate is that in high school, there are so many different reasons people do debate, right? Like it might be to get into colleges, it might be because your parents are encouraging you to do so. And in college, there's so many, kind of like I mentioned, other things you can do that the group of people who stay in college debate are people who really have like an intrinsic joy for the activity and appreciation for the activity. So I think there's something to be said for how exciting it can be to go, like kind of leave your campus, like leave like we say, like the Emory bubble for a weekend and go and be around people who all really have this joy for the activity because they've all made the decision to continue debating when maybe there aren't as many external reasons to do debate as there are like internal intrinsic reasons. So that can maybe make debates a little bit more competitive in a way because everyone is like really dedicated to some extent and really has like focused in on debate by making the choice to go to tournaments and spend so much time doing the activity. But I think that's overall like a really nice part about a difference between college and high school is maybe at some high school tournaments, some people don't really want to be there. But in college, everyone, or at least most people, have like strong appreciation for the activity. And that's also proven by how there are like coaches who it's their full-time job to coach debate. Whereas in high school, a lot of coaches have to balance between their full-time teaching obligations and also coaching. And so there's that component of it as well, where the coaches are really dedicated because it's their full-time job, which I think is a really awesome component to it.
Very true, especially on the coaching front. Other panelists.
Yeah, another thing that I think is sort of similar, but was a really nice difference for me, was that the college debate community is just a little bit smaller than high school. Not only in the number of like the types of debate, but also in just like the people that participate. Like Grace said, a lot of people like drop off after high school, and so the people that stick in debate are really into it. But you also just get a way better opportunity to get to know them. Like I remember a bunch of times in high school when I debated people, and I was like, I am certain that you and I would be besties, but I'm gonna see you once ever, and probably never again, and that'll be that. But in college, you just kind of like keep seeing the same faces around. Like a lot of people go to the same tournaments and there are overall fewer tournaments. And so you just end up seeing the same people more times. And it's a really cool way to like develop awesome relationships with people through like literally live across the country. And in high school, it's almost really difficult to like continue those relationships over time because you might go to one tournament that's the same, but then like literally never see each other at another tournament because, one of you debates on the West Coast and the other debates in the Midwest, for example. But in college, you kind of always end up at the same places every month. And so it's really exciting. And it's been a great opportunity for me to not only strengthen like the debate friendships that I've had in high school, but also meet new people that I know I'm going to like consistently have the opportunity to see. That also a little bit translates with judging as well. Like I feel like I've developed relationships with judges that I don't think I would have been able to do in high school, and that I think is helpful because you generate rapport. They sort of judge you a bunch of times, so they know who you are as a debater a little bit more. They get to give better feedback. They know what you sound like, things like that. And so I think the fact that it's a little bit of a smaller community just creates a lot of benefits.
Yeah, I think that's really, really solid advice, especially the judging aspect. I think one element that's really nice about college debate is that generally, on balance, the judging that you get in college debate is a little bit better than maybe some of the judging that is often experienced on the high school circuit. Not all, but like on balance. Other panelists, thoughts on this question?
Yeah, in my experience, like my general feeling at college tournaments has been it feels a lot less stressful, I feel like, than the experience of being at a high school tournament. And like when I say that, it people have different reactions to it. They're like, "Really, you think it's less stressful?" But like especially like going through freshman year and like getting used to the environment of college debate, like it feels less stressful to know I'm just at a debate tournament to do debate. And at the end of the day, like I just enjoy the activity. And like kind of to what Grace was saying about like the people who are in college debate really enjoy the process of debating and like being there. So it is a bit more competitive in that aspect, but at the same time, like the people appreciate the activity and it's a much more it feels more healthy. And obviously like there are instances of like not having that healthy relationship, but I think there's more capacity for like growth and managing the stressful component of debate in the college setting.
I also think something that's slightly different is that the tournaments are a lot better in general. Like they're a lot more consolidated and there's food that's centralized and provided by the tournament. And even if that food's sometimes questionable, at least it's there and you know you will eat something during the day. And I think that sort of consistency, well, I agree with what everyone else said about people and things. At least the physical environment of tournaments, I think, is substantially better in college than it is in high school, especially for the LDers that get strewn in random buildings, which people that did high school policy may not have experienced, but the 15-minute hike no longer happens. So
Justice for LDers and the buildings that they are placed in at tournaments. Fully agree. Sean, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I guess like this part obviously depends on where you end up and what team you end up on. But for me, like I came from a high school that didn't really have a program really like with coaches at our school and stuff like that. Getting to college, I really enjoyed like a step up in competition. Like everybody else has said, like the competition is better, the judges are better, but also like a lot of the times it'll be your first time like on a team with like 3 or 4 or 5 coaches or like kind of institutional resources, and you don't have to pay for your own flights and stuff a lot of the time. Um, and that part was really nice for me because it allowed me to, like, because I always just really loved debate and I'm really competitive, but it was hard to do that in high school while also trying to run a team on your own and logistics and payment and stuff. So if that's something that really stressed you out in high school, you probably won't have to worry about it in college.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up because I think that's something that probably a lot of like LDers and stuff like need to hear and like should hear, because a lot of LDers in high school often do have to kind of do a lot of things on their own, or they're kind of just, you know, running things independently. But college debate is like totally different. It is a night and day difference in terms of the institutional support, the resources you get. And that's true for, you know, students who did policy in high school too. Like as Sean just mentioned, you don't have to pay for your flights, your travel, or like anything like that. That is all supported by the college team that you are a part of. Awesome. Let's see. Something that surprised you about college debate. Is there anything that you all, you know, maybe did not think about college debate, like going into it, but after, you know, doing it for a minute, you kind of realize like, oh, wow, like this is something that I did not expect, anything positive or negative, really.
Yeah, I think based on my high school experience, debate was so consuming and took up so much time that going into college, I didn't expect college debate to afford the opportunity to be involved with other things on campus. And so I think that's been a really positive aspect to it and has allowed a more, at least personally, healthy relationship with debate when you're allowed to kind of explore other academic interests, social interests. And I think something about college debate that might lend itself to that is that there are generally fewer tournaments than there are in high school, like depending on the squad. And so I think that it's been nice to not have debate, which it's definitely like where I spend the most of my time, but being able to, you know, pursue other things and not make it feel like this all-consuming activity like it did, at least for me in high school, has been a positive feature of it. Maybe freshman year, it felt like a lot was going on at once, but once I kind of figured out how to manage my time and everything, then I feel like that was a more healthy component to college debate than I expected.
I was just gonna say that it's really like it's way harder in competitively. Like I was really surprised by how much better the average college team is than the average high school team. Like my first ever college debate was against Kieran and Sidham from Georgetown, which was kind of just hell. But if you are somebody that really enjoys debate and wants to kind of have harder debates and get better at it than college debate, like it's difficult to put into words how different it is competitively.
Yeah, going along with that,
Another
something that surprised, oh, sorry.
No, you
Something that surprised me was that people just like know a lot more about a lot more. Like in high school, we're all like 16 and we don't know anything about the world. And so there's just a lot of like spaces where there's like a moment where someone like should know a fact about like maybe how like NATO works and they just like straight up don't. But in college, like people know some stuff. And so I think that sort of like feeds into like the quality of debates that Sean was just mentioning about. But it's a little bit more than just like people are faster or they're like better at, you know, debating. It's also just like these debates seem like more real world and more valuable in the sense that it's not like only talking about things that you have prepared in advance because you just like memorize this certain fact about like whatever the topic was, but more so that in areas that you might not be as prepared, people are more knowledgeable. And so it just feels like every time you enter a debate, you'll like learn something new. in a sense that I wasn't really ready for because people are just more knowledgeable and older and mature in that sense.
I also think another important thing to add is that these debates translate really well into college classes because a lot of debate topics or what we're talking about, it reflects current academic disagreements and what's going on in the literature. And so it definitely helps increase your academic register and your ability to sort of apply things into class. And I'm sure most people that do high school debate in some capacity have noticed that there is some translation into increasing your grades or whatever, but that it's, I think, much more like you can feel it a lot more when it comes to college debate. And I think that sort of stems from people knowing more and you're just forced to learn much more about just basic geopolitics and how the world works and what actors are doing what.
That's so true. I'm glad you mentioned that because I think for a lot of students, like they might not realize that like some of the debate topics that you will get in college and also just like some of the other things that you learn about through the process of college debate that you don't really get to necessarily do in high school debate. Those often, at least from my perspective as a coach, inspire a lot of college students to like pursue, you know, whether it's law school, different grad school programs, or just like it inspires like the next step of their career in ways that I think most college students would not expect going into it. But then as a senior, they realize like, oh my gosh, I actually loved researching and debating this topic so much that like I want to write about this. I want to teach, you know, students about this. And I think that's something that is really cool and something that I see a lot as a coach. Claire, what were you going to say?
Yeah, like what I was gonna say was really similar to what Liz said. Like the availability of university professors for learning about a debate topic is like so invaluable and like such a unique opportunity in the setting of college debate that I had not exactly like considered prior to college, because I feel like the tendency is to have this like separation between like debate and academics, like debate as an extracurricular. But like the reality is like there are so many professors at so many universities that like you can reach out to and like meet with specifically to like clarify your understanding about a topic that like I just like hadn't thought about prior to being like on a campus setting and like being immersed in the college debate experience, that I think is really cool.
That's so true. And for a lot of colleges, there are a lot of like debate authors who are often professors, like, which is something that you can like, you know, stumble upon once you get there and you realize, what the heck? Like this author, this card that I've been reading for years, like this person is teaching some of these classes. Like it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Now I would love for each panelist to, you know, take about, you know, a minute, 90 seconds, however much time you need really, but to talk about your college debate team and, you know, the school that you go to, your school's debate team, giving like a snapshot sort of point of view for what it's like to be on your team, the size of your team, which formats you all do, maybe like something about what you like about being on your team, how your team, you know, builds community or gives back, anything that falls under that umbrella.
I can start on this one. So at USC, I really love the debate team at USC. It's such an amazing group of people. Our director of debate is Sean Kennedy, and he's about the smartest person I know. He knows so much about everything and does such an awesome job of balancing like all the things he has going on and like being willing to teach us about different topics and encourage us to become better debaters. The team size is relatively large. I might mess up this estimate. I would say it's about 20 debaters, which sounds small, but like in it really is a lot of really wonderful brains who, when we like put our heads together, can do some cool things. um and I think that's what I really like about the USC debate team. I feel like the research process is very collaborative between the students and coaches, and like the coaches are able to like push us to do really nuanced research about the topic, and like it's also very collaborative among the team members, and it's very fulfilling to like contribute on different parts of a file and like have the team using that which I think is really cool. It's an awesome team to be a part of. Yeah.
Awesome. Love that. And Claire's absolutely right. Sean Kennedy is a brilliant, brilliant debate mind. He was one of my favorite judges as a debater a little bit back in the day. Let's see. Sean, you want to go next? Talk about Go Trees?
Yeah, go trees, go green. Big green. I debated Dartmouth. Our director of debate is John Turner, who's also brilliant. We have I think generally have like 5 coaches at a time, 2 on campus, and then a few others that, go with us to tournaments. The Dartmouth team is very small. So I think we probably have like 12 people total right now. But we work really hard. It's a really close community because it's so small. We're all really good friends. Um, uh, and there's definitely a large emphasis on like doing good research and like taking debate seriously, but it's also very flexible. So, like there's no tournament requirement. You don't get like a card. You don't have to cut a certain amount of cards to get to tournaments. And yeah, like it's the resources are more than I ever saw in high school, and it's really, yeah, I love debating there.
I love that. And I think a lot of students at Dartmouth, in my experience, really like college debate in particular because Dartmouth is kind of like in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of like Hogwarts, where it's like in this like very beautiful land, like just like far away from like literally everything else. But then getting to travel and getting out of like the Dartmouth bubble is something that can be really nice. And it is like a beautiful campus, and the director is also, yeah, brilliant debate mind. Have nothing but nice things to say there. How about Goose or Grace? You go.
Yeah, I can shout out the Emory debate team for a second. No, I love Emory debate. The team's really large. We have about 35 kids going to tournaments, on average, and it's awesome because you really get to know everyone and befriend everyone. Like it really is one big group and one big community, which is awesome. Like Emory doesn't have a football team, so people say like the debate team kind of gets more like institutional resources and support and attention, which is nice. And something I think great about the Emory team too is the debate room is like a sacred space that you'll constantly find people in. So we have 4 coaches full time who will be there every day of the week, which is awesome. Teaching novice debate, JV debate, varsity debate. And you can really go in there at any point to do like homework, ask people questions about the world, about classes, and then also debate work. And so I think that's made for a really great, like I said, source of community. And if you like karaoke, that's a big fan favorite on the team. So
Love that. The Emory debate team is huge. It is a big tent debate team. They have so many students who participate. And I know that Emory has had a lot of students who have also come from like non-policy backgrounds. So all of you like LDers or PFers out there should definitely consider Emory, have it on your list. Let's see, Goose, you want to go for it?
Yeah, so I debate at Michigan State, and I obviously absolutely love it there. The team is about, I'd say maybe like 15 debaters. We've got 5 coaches, 3 that are physically in East Lansing on campus, and then 2 that are not, one of them being Jasmine. And yeah, very similar to Emory, what Grace just mentioned. We have like a little office space inside. So the debate team is housed in the Honors College, not only like literally our office space is in an Honors College building, but it's like within the institution, part of the Honors College. And I found that to be super helpful. It means that we get a lot of institutional support and every sort of like administrative benefit that the Honors College has, things like early class sign up, the scholarships that are devoted, the focus on out-of-state students, things like that. The debate team also benefits from, which to me has been really important. I'm not from Michigan, but I, go to school in Michigan. And so a lot of those benefits have been really, really huge. And then the team, even more than just like being a debate powerhouse where you can always go to give speeches or cut cards or whatever, like we physically all spend a bunch of time in the office together doing things that are not debate related. So I'm there probably an embarrassing amount just doing homework, but we also just like hang out there all the time and play cards or video games or just like walk around campus and get food together. And so I think that the MSU debate team is really lovely because not only is it a very amazing space for debate and for the activity, but it's also just an amazing space to be and to hang out. And similar to what someone mentioned earlier, it was almost just like a built-in group of friends and a built-in extra study space, which to me was huge. Like I hate being locked up in my room doing homework 5 days a week, and sometimes a library is far or crowded or loud. And so having an extra space that I know is always available to me was really, really huge for me. And MSU absolutely affords that.
Woo, go green. All right, Liz.
I guess I wouldn't be talking about Wake Debate without some adages that Jared probably wants me to say. I guess the phrase that encapsulates Wake Debate and what everyone will tell you if you ask them about some Wake Debate adage is person first, academic second, debater third. And Wake Debate really emphasizes that people are people before they are debaters. And I think that's something every program should emphasize, whether it be high school or college, because uh, Wake does not hold you to a commitment to debate. If there are things going on, it's a very flexible program, and they really do stick by that. If you're struggling in school, you can drop tournaments, move things around, find new partners, etc. And so I think that's something I really value about Wake and Wake Debate as a general program is I never feel pressure. You have to cut these many cards or do whatever to compete, or if you don't want to compete, here are some alternatives so you can fulfill scholarship obligations. And there's never really sort of pressure to debate. It's sort of they want you to have the desire and the built-in want to compete and to win. But that's just sort of the third and tertiary factor. And I think that's one thing that makes Wake Debate special. Just like other squads, we have our squad room that's on the 4th floor of Carswell Hall. You will always find someone there. You will always find Justin at his desk cutting cards or just rambling. It's something that's smarter than anything I will ever say. And you just being in the squad room, you learn so much. And it's one of the best ways that I think, regardless of the program, is just hanging out in a squad room is where you learn the most, I think.
No, retweet. I love that last point there. One thing that I hope is clear to all the students watching is that something that is a theme throughout all of these notes about college debate teams is that there are so many more institutional resources and coaches whose job is like only to coach you in debate and to only like work for the debate team. Now, that is not true at every single, institution where there is college debate. Some, debate coaches also have to be professors, and so they have to teach classes and stuff. But for a lot of these programs that we're talking about here today, the coaches that these students are referencing, like their job is just debate. Like I feel like, Ken from Barbie, like my job is just debate. Like at MSU, like we have like 5 like full-time coaches, and like all of us, like our job is just debate. And that's not something that you really get in high school. So it's just like another resource and another way that college debate is a little bit, better and a little bit better resource in particular. Okay. For the next question that I have here is that I want to ask the panelists just for their advice about like debate school life balance. Like how do we balance debate work, tournaments, schoolwork, having jobs, and having free time, obviously. So any strategies that you all have to, facilitate that balance, your philosophy when it comes to thinking about it, anything you want to share here?
I can kick this one off. I don't think there's like one magic secret tool. Like if someone's got it, let me know. But it obviously depends on what you're involved in and what kind of person, how you do your own organization, etc. But I work 2 jobs while at school. I'm pursuing 2 bachelor's degrees, so like I definitely understand what it's like to have a full schedule. And the thing that I have found to be the most important, and especially different from high school, is that it's really, really important to keep an open line of communication with your teachers, your bosses, your debate coaches, and your teammates, like your partner. I think in high school, a lot of times you sort of get off the hook, just like institutionally, like debate is just a funky field trip. The teachers let anything slide. They don't really care. You get a letter from like whoever the debate coach or the person associated with the activity is, and all of your like high school teachers just like, yeah, whatever. I don't know what this kid is doing, but it doesn't matter to me. But in college, it's not really how it goes. There's a lot of more expectations that you are an adult now. You live on your own. You need to manage your time and communicate with people where you'll be, why you miss class, when you're going to make it up, etc. And so the thing that I use to sort of balance all these activities is dealing with it preemptively. So instead of letting a teacher know that you weren't at last week's class because you were at a tournament, is to like email them day 1 of the semester with like, I will be gone these 4 weekends because I will be attending these tournaments. This is what debate is. It is housed for me in the honors college. So I'm not lying because it's real, I swear. Like things like that, and just keeping a very upfront, open line of communication, because that is the expectation as soon as you get to college. And it is way easier to start the semester off that way and establish that line of trust with your boss or your teacher than having to, like, at the end of semester justify why you have 11 unexcused absences.
That's really good advice. Thank you. All right, next up.
Yeah, I think oh, go ahead, Claire.
Oh, thank you. Well, I know the way the Trojan Debate Squad starts off with managing classes and debate is we do receive a letter that's like, here are the students on the debate team, here are the tournaments we're attending. And the expectation, in line with what Joanna was saying, is like you send that to your professors and you are then responsible for being held accountable for when you are in class and when you're turning in assignments. I think just like adjusting to the debate college life balance, it does require a level of like holding yourself accountable and on a strict timeline, especially when tournaments inevitably do overlap with having assignments be due. And it can be really stressful and trying to balance those things, especially the weekend of a tournament. The correct way to handle this is to do it prior to the tournament, because in line with what everyone else was saying, like we very much believe your student first and like your academics are very valuable, and it's important that like people do well in school. But in the event that you don't get like let's say an assignment done prior to a tournament, like the way I handle that is the moment I am done debating is me doing schoolwork if I need to, which like can feel like, oh, I'm around all these people I really enjoy being around, but it does like require you to hold yourself accountable and be like, well, I have this deadline and like I have to get my work done for my classes, which is really important. And just like time management, it's a very new skill. And just like generally, I find things like Google Calendar and having like a visual image of what and when everything is due to be super helpful. But obviously, like it's such a case by case basis, like people know what works for them. So it's really important to know how you best manage your own time and what works best for you to, meet the expectations that your professors have for you.
Yeah, no, I think the big point about communication is really important. And one thing maybe to clarify is in college, different from high school, most of your professors should give you a syllabus at the beginning of the semester, which outlines basically when all of your assignments are due, whenever you have major exams and things like that, so you can plan really far in advance. Like I was forced to take a intro to biology class this semester, and of course, all the exams were like right after every debate tournament. So I just knew that I had to start studying like a week earlier than maybe I would have if I wasn't going to debate tournaments. And so it's really nice that in college you can like there are literal like very much tools for you to anticipate like what you have coming up, maybe a little bit different from high school. And yeah, what everyone said, just communicating preemptively. Maybe I put a little more pressure on myself to like go to class. Like if I'm like, oh, I don't really want to go to class today, but it's like, well, I've kind of missed several classes because of debate. Like I probably should go to class, just like trying to check yourself in those other ways when maybe you would want to slack a little bit just because you know that you're missing some stuff for debate is helpful to keep in mind. But yeah, communication is definitely key. And luckily most debaters are pretty fine communicators. So hopefully there won't be major problems, and professors are generally very understanding.
Don't sign up for 8 a.m. classes, no matter what you think about yourself. Never do 8 a.m. classes if you can help it. That's my like concrete advice. Let's see, Sean, Liz.
I guess something that's helped me is like I've become really type A about my calendar, which I would not have expected given my high school self. But actually scheduling in time to do debate versus homework is actually really helpful, because what I found at the very beginning of the semester was I would sit down to do homework and then suddenly a verbatim document would open and it would just go from there. And so I think actually making a schedule of, okay, I'm going to have these hours to work on schoolwork and I'm actually going to commit to only doing schoolwork and not, because everything for school's on your laptops and everything for debate is also on your laptop. And so having some sort of separation, whether it be physical or just committing yourself via a calendar little square to do homework during a certain part has been something that's been very helpful and something I needed to learn, that actually like I need to schedule in time to do debate specifically and homework specifically so things actually get done and it's not just like me doing both at the same time, bouncing back and forth and nothing really happens.
So true. Calendars, planners, they are all your friend, especially when you get to college. Highly recommend. Sean, what about you?
I don't have a ton to add beyond recommending that you ask, or if you do debate in college, like use the older people on your team and your coaches as resources that are not just for debate. Like, I mean, like we have Callahan who like has a PhD now, and he has obviously knows a lot about like study skills and how to like do school and stuff. And also like there's a bunch of older people on the Dartmouth debate team in my major who have helped a lot with like homework and managing my time and stuff. Just like you have a very unique opportunity of being very close to a bunch of people that have done this stuff that you're doing now that's really hard. So like take advantage of it.
That's a really good point. Yeah, definitely utilize your coaches and yeah, your older teammates for advice and everything. I think this next question is probably more so for Sean and Liz because I know we have some people listening who, do not exclusively do policy debate in high school or yeah, they are, just yeah, exclusively doing LD. And so what advice would you have for high school students who are in a similar position? Like what advice would you give to like LDers, PFers who are wondering if they should pursue college policy?
I mean, like if it's LD, I think you for sure should. If you enjoy debate, policy is just kind of a better version of it. Um, if what you love about debate is like it being insanely technical and like going for very silly theory style arguments, then like maybe you wouldn't enjoy college policy as much. But if you really enjoy debating about certain topics, or if you've ever been frustrated by like how short LD speech times are, or the rotating topics, or the quality of judging sometimes, then like those are all concerns that go away in college. You do though need to learn how to work with another person. It's like a lot harder than it seems and takes like a really long time to learn how to communicate with someone else during a debate round. But definitely don't be intimidated because basically every college policy debate coach has coached somebody who did LD in high school. So it should be fine.
It's true. It's more and more common nowadays. And we have, former LDers who are winning things like all over the place in college policy. So yeah, people should not be deterred. Liz, what do you think?
I guess like there's obviously differences, whether it be the speech times, the amount of cards you cut, but I think LD gets hate that it maybe sometimes doesn't deserve. In terms of it does breed very specific debate skills, but those skills are easily transferable into college policy. So like giving a 1AR is actually way easier, I think, because of LD than when I just did policy, just because you're forced to develop arguments and really time press speeches that are probably harder to give a LD 1AR than I think a policy 1AR, just because of the way that things go. And so I think there are transferable skills. And I know when I started, there was just a lot of like LD hate, and sure, LDs can be silly, but you're not as like bad as you think you are. And that seems like a weird thing for me to say, but I know when I was an LDer, there was a lot of like, okay, well, I only do LD. It's like not enough. I only do LD. No college coach could want me. And saying that out loud seems like that's a bit silly. You only did like K debate and policy style debate. So like everyone would, but there's still a lot of, I think, LDers that think through like, I only do LD, it's not transferable to policy, coaches won't want me. And that's just so untrue that I think part of it is just getting over, and this is true for policy debaters, just like reach out to coaches. And just because policy coaches don't see you as often, they're not going to naturally reach out to you because they don't know who's good or they don't know who has interest in college policy because you're just not being judged by college policy coaches like policy debaters are. And so reaching out and having conversations with people and being like, hey, I'm at the Emory tournament. Can we meet up and have a conversation about this? And sort of being forward, I think, is honestly the best way. Also, just like talking to current debaters, which is, I think, something that's really underrated that high school policy debaters get naturally, just be it via coaching and via other like getting judged by them and being able to ask questions. And honestly, like if you just like cold email people and like CC someone else, obviously for safety reasons, but if you cold email, like 90% of college policy debaters will respond easily, happily set up times to meet up and talk. And honestly, I find talking to college like current debaters on the team is a lot more beneficial than talking to like the head coach, just because you get a really specific perspective from the head coach that, well, to be frank, they're paid to say, but that's not like, and that you should get that perspective, but also getting it from current debaters can really help. And especially like debaters that did LD, because they gone through that transition and can sort of speak to how specific universities like help that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all really good advice. I highly encourage any LDer who is thinking about college debate to go for it, to try it. What's the worst that happens? You don't like it? Like that's ultimately it. And that's true for every high schooler who is considering doing college debate, but is kind of on the fence. Like, what's the worst that happens? Maybe you don't like it. That's okay. You don't have to do it forever. You can try it out. But for any LDer out there who may be asking themselves like, am I good enough for L or for policy? Like, can I really hang in college policy? You absolutely can. Like, you absolutely can. If all the empirics are not enough, like, take it from me. Like, I have seen plenty of policy debaters that you could absolutely hang with and probably beat. Even when you think about like all the differences between LD and policy. So yeah, you can absolutely do it. For the next question I have here, I want to ask if any of the panelists have advice for students who are maybe like on the fence about college debate. Maybe students who are like, yeah, I don't know, is it worth it? Or maybe students who are wondering if it's too much work or if it's just not worth the time investment. What advice would you give to convince them maybe to try?
I think one of the biggest benefits for debate for me, which was entirely separate from like the amount of time I invested into debate or how many tournaments I attended or how many cards I cut, was from the first day of college. I mean, even the week before, like I got on campus early for like a mini debate work week. Like the moment I got onto campus, I had a group of people, a space, and a group of trusted adults that I knew would help me not only navigate like college and how to like, actually go to my 8 a.m. classes, but also deal with signing up for classes and which dining halls are good. And I think that that's something that is sort of, for someone on the fence, I think is a factor that they should consider. It's unrelated to, like I said, literally how many tournaments you go to. And so if you're unsure about the amount of time or commitment you want to spend to debate, I think it's really important to just like show up to the squad room on day one of college, because you'll have not only built-in friends, but built-in adults and built-in institutional support and a built-in like physical place to be. And I just don't think that anything can replace that. Like talking to my friends who didn't debate in college, maybe even debate in high school, just like friends of mine really struggled at the beginning, even though they're incredibly social and friendly and lovely people. It's hard to like show up to a new place and make a bunch of new friends from day one. And college, at the beginning certainly feels a little bit lonely. You're in a new place, you don't know a lot of people. Maybe at MSU, there's 55,000 other people who are equally as confused as you are. And so I think that if you're on the fence, something that I think might help tip the balance for you is to just know that when you show up to debate on day one of college, it might not even be with the intention of debating. Like it's possible you never go to a tournament, but you at least know that for the first 2 weeks of school, until you meet people in your classes and join other clubs, that you have a group of people to hang around with. And I think that's super important as soon as you get somewhere new and spooky like college.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great point. And you can always try out debate and decide that you don't like it. But also, I think, like on the Emory team, we have people who don't regularly go to tournaments, but they still come to the debate room. We'll occasionally cut cards. We'll come to our team events and like the volunteer work that we do. So there's ways to still be involved with debate, even if you decide the maybe like hyper competitive college part of it isn't for you. And one thing I'd also flag when you're thinking about this in high school is that some college debate, like on the topic of scholarships, some scholarships are tied to debating. So just be very aware of that when you're deciding. Like if there's part of you that doesn't want to debate in college, just consider that if you're accepting, a scholarship that ties debate to like that money at Emory. We have at least one debater get a scholarship every year, but you don't have to continue debating if you get that scholarship. You just have to do some of the volunteer work that the Emory team does. But that's just one thing to keep in mind, because I think programs fluctuate with that. And for some debaters, it's totally fine. But I've seen other debaters, when they're forced to debate, even for money, grow a bit more resentful towards the activity than if they felt like they were voluntarily doing it. So that's just something else to keep in mind when you're kind of weighing the different options that you have and like what it looks like to have scholarships in debate and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with all those things. And I think the reason like trying out debate is like a good idea generally is that like college, the 4 years are for trying new things and knowing what you like to do, especially the first semester and like the first year as I'm going into my second semester is a time to try things and like go outside your comfort zone. And the reason debate tends to be unique is many people are already experienced within debate as an activity. So you have that level of familiarity. And that's not to say like if you're not familiar with debate, you shouldn't. I think everyone should try college debate. I think it's an incredibly valuable activity. But for students who have like a high school debate background, you have that, kind of, I affirm that you know what the activity is. You have that background. And so it's a time to try new things and to have a new thing that is still not like entirely new can be such a good path to get to know so many new people and familiarize yourself with people from all across the university, especially like the people on the Trojan debate team tend to come from like all these different like majors and academic backgrounds that it's really cool to immerse yourself in a culture like that.
Sean or Liz?
I would just say like uh if you're unsure, talk to the coach at the school you're going to. Like, at least for me, I just know that talking to some college coaches about debate made me really excited about college debate because you realize how invested the college coaches are and how smart they are about debate. They'll explain things to you in ways that you've never heard them explain, even though you've been debating for however long. And it might just make they might be able to help you find a new love for debate if your love for it in high school is, waning a little.
I guess to echo something Grace said that I think is sort of important to touch on again, which is that you can have your own relationship to debate, and not everyone has to win the NDT or has to want to win the NDT. And I feel like when you are applying to colleges and you're considering college debate, you're like, well, my only relationship to college debate has to be wanting to compete at the highest levels of success. And I don't think that's true for any of our programs. And I think everyone can sort of engage, whether that be doing volunteer work with a team, whether that be doing logistical support for the team, whether that be only cutting cards or going to regional tournaments, that there are a variety of different ways to participate in debate, and there isn't one way. And I think a lot of college coaches actually surprise, like, I think it's a common misconception that they have like an idea of what a college debater is. But I think a lot of college coaches actually want to support the individual students and not sort of their idea of what a college debater is.
Love that advice. No, that's great. Thank you all. Okay, so one final question here before we open it up to audience members to ask questions. And I want to ask you all just like kind of what we think about the existence of like a white cis boys club existing in debate. Because I think this is something that we kind of know like exists and often feels and looks like, a white cis boys club like in debate. And there's a lot of evidence like to support that. And so I don't know, I want to hear, your perspectives when it comes to dealing with this club. Like, what does it feel like to you? Does it seem more present in high school debate versus college, equal? Panelists, feel free to share really whatever you have on the subject.
Yeah, I can kick it off. I think that there's two main thoughts that I have on this. The first is that I think it's a little bit better in college than high school, and I'm not trying to say that things are perfect and that there are never things that go wrong in college, but I do genuinely believe it's better. It has certainly been in my experience. I think the main reason for that is that the college debate community is smaller. Everybody knows everybody a little bit more, and so there's just a lot more accountability. It's like things don't fly as easily. People see each other often. Judges, sort of know more people in the community, and the people who are judging debates are like full-time debate people who understand the value of like making debate a safe and comfortable space as opposed to just like a dad or a biology teacher. And so to the degree that that like those factors are at play, I think that people understand that the limit to, doing some of the more frowned upon things that might occur in high school more often. I think the bar is just a lot higher in college. The other thing that I found for me personally in college is that, particularly on the MSU debate team compared to where I debated at GBN, for the first time ever, I have not one but two female coaches, which is spectacular. And I also have a lot of non-dudes on the team with me, and a lot of people of color, gender minorities, and so something that I can do now for the first time ever is just like giggle about it. Like, obviously, that might not be the response that a lot of people have, but to me, it's been really helpful just to be like, can you believe that this guy said this to me in this debate? And just like laugh about it. And to me, I understand that that is not a coping strategy for everybody and that it might not be appropriate in a lot of contexts, but I know that a lot of debate teams are a little bit more diverse in college because the people who stick with it sort of get it a little bit more, and it's not just like random kid from high school. And so I think that given that not only are people more accountable, like I said, but you can just laugh about it a little bit more, and that helps me.
Yeah, absolutely. Next.
Personally, I think college debate is way less than LD. Like LD, I think is actually a lot worse than policy in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying that policy or college policy is perfect, but at least my experience specifically, LD felt a lot more like a white cis boys club, and there was a lot more like barriers to certain things. And I think that's part of it being individual, but also part of the way that certain prep groups and other schools like that operate. And so I just think college policy, it feels a lot more like less of that, and it feels a lot more like an actual community rather than just like isolated bubbles and things like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with what's been said. Luckily, I think that college, based on my experience, is better in that regard. And I think that's an interesting point about prep, that I just remembered that in high school, sometimes like different schools would share prep and there would be odd dynamics with that, where in college that does not happen, which is really nice. And I mean, there are still lots of problems, but I think that something that's been nice in college is that you can recount situations to more coaches. From my experience, there have been more coaches and other members of the team who will be just as mad with you about what happened, or people who you can turn to express, like maybe laugh about it, express frustration, and things like that. So that's been like a nicer feature to it in college. And I've also been in some situations where judges have intervened, which I think should happen more when there's like disrespect that's happening and challenges in debates. And so those are like good parts of the college community that I've seen, though definitely can get better, but comparatively better than high school from my experience.
Yeah. Prefacing this by saying, like, this is my personal experience as a white woman in the activity, which is, I think, is a very important thing to acknowledge, that gender disparities do not occur the same, like on subject position matters in discussing these things. I found that like college debate allows me to like kind of what everyone's been saying, like you have a much closer community. So I'm not only able to like talk with other people on my team about my frustrations with like men in the activity, but at tournaments, I have a network of other people that I can like fall back on, in such a situation that like maybe I just don't know where my team is and I am like so frustrated, that I think is really important. And I also find that like college coaching takes like, I come from a high school background where like my high school program was very cognizant of gender disparities in debate, and realize like to go from being coached by two amazing women to a setting that has much more men in it, but still people that are willing to take substantive action to correct for like problematic behavior, is very valuable. And I found it to be very helpful in adjusting and switching between programs. So that's my experience with it.
Yeah, I guess like in terms of being like trans and non-binary in debate, it's been a lot better in college because I think broadly, like you're interacting with adults more often than you're interacting with like high schoolers. So people are generally a lot more chill about accommodations related to gender identity or, using correct pronouns and stuff like that. Like, it's very rarely a thing in college where that's disrespected. Also, I think on your own team, because you'll have coaches that are like adults and have been doing this for a while, probably. There's more maturity about handling situations like bullying, harassment, etc. Your coaches will probably be familiar with the Title IX office people. So, in general, I felt that there's a lot more support for me when there is an issue and I need help dealing with something.
Thank you all. At this point, I wanted to open it up for audience questions. So please feel free to utilize the Q&A, the chat, whatever you want to use to ask any questions about the topics that we've talked about thus far. If you have any questions about college debate generally, about what it's like to be an LD or going into college debate, if you have questions about any of the particular debate teams that these panelists like represent, sometimes students want to ask about like the admissions process and how debate plays a role into that. And we can speak to that if audience members are curious, but just wanted to give people a minute to do that. And you should definitely take advantage of it if you're a student in the audience, because there aren't a lot of opportunities to be able to just talk to current college debaters like in a setting like this. So I think it's pretty cool. All right. Oh, really good question. How hard is it to make friends in debate as someone new to a college team? Let's see, we will answer this live. Would someone like to take a stab at this one? How hard is it to make friends in debate as someone new to a college team? Oh, yes, go ahead.
I think that several people have mentioned that a lot of our college programs have like a mini work week or some sort of time before school even starts where you all get together. The Emory team does. We have like a week or so before the semester starts. And that's a nice way to already start to meet people in a friendly environment. There is, of course, like still debate preparation happening and practice debates and things like that. We'll also play games and like we're all in charge of like taking turns cooking dinner for each other. And so I think that there's a nice environment before the semester starts and you start to get really busy where you're already in the same space and can get to know other people. So I think that's like a nice way that college programs can provide space for people to get to know each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really good. The preseason, the retreat is a very great opportunity to make friends. Okay, for this next one, and I might like take this one, but how do you reach out to college debate coaches, both in person and through email? And someone asked a similar question of like, how do we get in contact with college debate coaches and find out who those coaches are? All right, so the first thing is that a lot of college debate teams have websites. Some of those websites that they have that like explain, what their team is all about and like who the coaches are and like who's on the team are a little bit outdated, but most of them are up to date and they have the contact information of who the coaches are. And so typically that website will have, their email address. But honestly, like if you know who the college coach is, you should go look on Tabroom for their email because oftentimes it is right there at the top when they say, put me on the chain. So I would say use that as the easiest way to figure out like their contact information and everything. The next thing is that when you reach out to them, my best piece of advice is to not be too intimidated. Like I know it can feel really scary as a high school student to like send an email to like, be like, oh my gosh, this is like a professor debate coach, or oh my goodness, this is the director of debate at this institution. I promise college coaches are not that scary. We're, just older debate nerds, so it's okay. You can just send an email to express your interest in wanting to learn more about the team. It doesn't have to be a lengthy email. It doesn't have to be that much of a thing if you're just reaching out to express like interest. And so when you reach out to them, I would say you want to ask questions about their team, what it's like. Maybe you want to ask about college or about scholarship opportunities and everything like that. And maybe you want to set up a Zoom meeting with them. That's something that college coaches do all the time. I've been doing a million Zoom meetings lately, recruiting and meeting with students. So college coaches are typically eager to do that with you because they want to recruit, they want to get more awesome kids on their team. And then the other like thing that I'll say is that sometimes college coaches can be a little bit slow in responding to emails. And my my advice here is to not take that super personally. Sometimes college coaches are really just like overwhelmed and behind on like emails because of, tournaments and stuff or having other obligations. So I would just say if it takes a while for a college coach to get back to you, like don't sweat it. It's probably not you. They are probably just overwhelmed and have a million and one things on their plate. This is especially true if you are reaching out to college coaches in like August, September, which makes the most sense for you to reach out to coaches during that time because you're, doing all your apps and stuff. But it's kind of the worst time to reach out to college coaches because it's when they are the most busy preparing for the upcoming season and everything like that. And they're preparing for the season opener and all those tournaments. So I'd recommend that you especially if you're like a junior, reaching out to college coaches at the end of your junior year is probably a good way to just like get your foot in the door, establish like, a relationship with the college coach. They know who you are, and it ensures that you don't have to wait a long time for them to get back to you once, the late summer and like, first part of the school year like starts. So that's my top level advice for that one. We'll say we answered that.
Sorry, just one little thing I want to add to that is I think a good way to get information about a program is asking students. Like I know that I personally judge a bunch of high school debates. I work with a high school, and so a lot of times if you're being judged by a college student and you're interested in the program that they are a part of, you can ask them for information about it or ask them for like the email or the best way to contact whoever the director of debate is there. It's pretty easy to tell like what school a kid goes to, or you can just straight up ask them. I'm always trying to wear MSU merch when I'm judging debates on purpose, but I think that's a really good way. And I think a lot of times you might get a quicker or more honest response from a student than you might get because we're not, as invested in like recruiting necessarily. And we're definitely not as busy.
Yep. No, totally agree. Reach out to the students. You should always do that to get their perspective because like coaches are going to be able to tell you a lot about the college, the institutional side, scholarships and all that stuff, but students will be able to give you a much more accurate perspective on like what it's like to be a student on the team, what it's like to, be in the squad room every day and like that like type of thing. Let's see. How big of a time commitment is college debate? Would it be possible to engage in multiple activities at once, or is debate too time consuming? I'll say to start that it depends on your goals and it depends on the activities. If your goal is to become really, really, really competitive in college debate, I'll be honest, it'll be hard to do something else like band or, something else with like a serious like practice schedule and like time commitment. It's going to be hard if you have very, serious competitive goals in college debate. Now, if you don't have those goals in college debate, which is totally okay. If you just like want to go to a few tournaments, you love the social elements of your debate team, that's awesome. Highly encourage that. Then yeah, it is probably possible to do multiple activities, to do journalism or any other thing that you have like going on. So there are plenty of students who make it work. There's so many great examples of students who have not only been extremely successful in college debate, but have also like managed like very difficult like STEM majors and a whole host of like other things. So is it possible? Yes. Is it a little bit harder? Yes. But I think this comes down to your schedule, your goals, and the discipline that you have, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's like your discipline and keeping yourself on a schedule and all the great tips that the panelists shared earlier about like calendars, planners, being committed, that type of thing. Not sure if anyone else has other advice to add there.
Yeah, the word I was looking for when I was talking earlier about balancing school and debate was discipline. Like coming from somebody who is in a STEM major, it is a bit trickier because like for a student pursuing like political science, for example, a lot of the readings and research they're doing for that class lends itself to like debate topic research. So when you're studying like a STEM degree, you don't have that level of like the two blending together. So kind of what Liz was talking about like earlier about just blocking off time to do debate, it makes more sense to be like, this is a time I'm gonna like work on chemistry and math, which is obviously so much different than like the debate research that ought to get done. And like having that sense of it is difficult, but also debate is what you make of it at the end of the day. And you can put as much into it or as little, but I find it to be very rewarding to be able to like find that balance between the level, like kinds of science that I really enjoy learning about and the types of policy research I enjoy learning about in debate.
Yeah, definitely depends a little bit on your major. Like I did poli-sci for a reason. It lends itself very well to debate, as Claire just explained, and it was definitely a lot easier than taking the STEM route. Okay, I love this
I will
question.
say though,
Good, Sean.
yeah, one thing really quickly though is at least at Dartmouth, like we have a lot of STEM majors on the team. I actually think right now we have more STEM majors on the team than anything else. And like the general rule of thumb is you can do like one other thing. So like we have a lot of other people that either do like physics research or like Tyler Virgo was like really heavily involved in a computer science engineering club and also won the NDT. So like you can usually do one other thing, especially something that's important for your career.
Yeah, something I've also found is it's very helpful to pick activities that are flexible. Like I have a job on campus, but it's a research job where I can basically do it when I want. I just need to like commit a certain amount of hours a week and get a certain amount of like work done a week. But it's not something where it's like you need to be in this building from X hour to X hour. And I'm also like in other organizations and clubs, but they have like pretty flexible time commitments. And so things like maybe like a fraternity or sorority, if you're interested in that, for example, like you usually only have to go to like a certain number of meetings a month or only get like a certain number of activities every set of weeks or every semester. And so it's useful to participate. I'm not like, obviously this is not possible with every activity, but obviously there are tons of activities on college campuses that have flexible commitments and that they understand that like debate is a priority for you. And so I think that if you are interested in other activities, it's important to look for activities that are flexible. And if you do that, you can participate in a bunch of other things because you can just fit it in how you can fit it in.
Yeah, that's a really good point, especially about like Greek life. A lot of students are interested in Greek life for a lot of reasons. You know, it's definitely a great way to like make friends, especially in a new place. And definitely think that you can balance like Greek life stuff with debate for sure. Like people do that every year, all the time. Like that's usually something that's pretty easy for people to manage. Okay, for this next question, how voluminous, I love this word, and generous are debate scholarships? Depends on where you go. There are some schools that have like really, really good debate scholarships and they have a lot of money to throw around, and there are some that don't. That's kind of it. And this just requires you asking those programs what kind of scholarships they have available, making sure you're asking questions like, are those tied to competing like every single year, or are there other things you could do to earn that scholarship, etc. So it really depends, because there are some institutions that honestly don't have debate scholarships because they don't like need to have them. Depending, like a lot of Ivy institutions are like that, for example. And then there are some that have a lot of money that they can give you. It's just about, I think, researching the schools that you are interested in and then going from there, emailing those coaches, asking about scholarships. The other key thing I want to emphasize here is that even if a school does not have, a gold mine of scholarship money, a lot of times those coaches know how to find you more money on campus. This is something I'll give a nice shout out to my Will Repco. Like that man at MSU knows where all the pots of gold are on campus, and he has found students so much money that are not tied to the debate team whatsoever, just because, as a coach who has been at MSU for so long, he knows where all the scholarships are. He knows where the hidden gems are. And I think like pretty much every college coach like knows how to do that. And they know how to help you, with like financial aid and things like that for the most part. So no matter what, just reach out to coaches and ask what they have available. That's the best way to find out. Okay.
Also,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
sorry, I was gonna add to that, just like Ivies don't give merit scholarships at all. But as somebody that like is in the need-based financial aid world, your debate coach can help you negotiate with financial aid, and it's important to remember that your financial aid offer isn't really final, it's negotiable. And if you're willing to speak up for yourself, your debate coaches can help you with those communications, which is very helpful.
That's very true. And even if sometimes coaches can't get you like full scholarships, what they can do is get you out of state tuition waivers. This is what I had in college, and it's the only reason I was able to afford college is because my coach got me an out of state tuition waiver. So that way I could afford to pay the rest of my college bill by myself. All right. Next one, how does the recruiting process work for LD specifically? Will coaches come to tournaments and watch rounds? Yeah, sometimes they will. But in order for them to do that, they kind of got to know like who you are. And they probably, need to have some sort of communication with you. So this is why, like, if you are at all interested in college debate, like, there's no harm in reaching out to a college coach or college program and being like, hey, I'm thinking about your school. I'm interested in. I'm going to be at this tournament. Will you have any representatives from your team who are there at the tournament who could talk to me? Like, that's all it takes. And most coaches are going to be so excited to get that email from you. Like, if I received that email from any student, I'd be like, heck yeah, I want to come watch some of your rounds. I want to talk to you at this tournament. Absolutely. So just reach out, like, let them know and see if you can like set that up. But otherwise, there's like, not a distinct recruiting process for LD specifically. I think that, a lot of college programs are starting to realize that LDers are the real deal and they should be recruiting them. Like, that's something that I've been doing a lot this year. And so I think more and more college coaches are going to pay attention to LD. But I think as LDers, you kind of do have to like put yourself out there a little bit more to, get your foot in the door and to make college coaches like remember, like, hey, there's this other event over here that has a lot of really excellent debaters that they should be talking to. So reach out to coaches, shoot your shot. Nothing bad will happen.
Yeah, and like adding on to that, coming from a person who has been judging and coaching a lot of LD recently, like it goes a long way to just like let somebody know that you're interested in debating at their school, because when I'm judging kids, I'm like so unsure. Like, I see the potential of like a student, and then I'm just like, oh, but I don't know if they are interested. And then it's like taking the initiative to just like let somebody know, like, hey, what's it like debating at this school? Like, I'm going through college apps and like am assessing my options, can like also help cue like debaters on programs know what debaters are interested in debating in a college policy program.
Yeah, absolutely. And if a coach doesn't get back to you immediately, like, don't sweat it. Like, don't let that stop you. When I was your age, 10 years ago, and I was like reaching out to college coaches for the first time, none of them answered my emails. Like, literally, they all ghosted me. But I just like showed up to work week anyways, because I decided that I want to be there. So just like, even if you don't get a lot of responses, even if you feel like you're not good enough, like, you absolutely are, like, shoot your shot, be confident in yourself, and just go for it. Just go for it.
The other piece of advice I have as someone that went through the LD to policy transition very recently is debate camp matters a lot. Not just from the success the next season, but about making connections. So I went to policy camp for 2 years, and I think that definitely played a role in where I ended up and my interest in college policy debate, in general, because you get to talk to coaches. Jasmine was my lab leader. Shout out that lab. But regardless, I think where you go to camp is important. And even if you go to LD camp, I'm not saying that you can't go to LD camp and you have to go to policy camp, but there are people affiliated with policy debate at LD camp. Like Devon works at VBI every summer. And so sort of just knowing who's involved and asking around, hey, are there any college policy people on staff that I can talk to? I'm working at LD camp again this summer. And so sort of even if you're at an LD camp, being able to ask around and being like, hey, do you want to get coffee and have a conversation about college policy? And all of your lab leaders, if they're involved, will be happy to do that or happy to point you in the right direction. Because even if they're not college policy people themselves, odds are they know someone who's really into college policy and be more than happy to set up a Zoom call. So utilizing debate camp and sort of that resource as some sort of stepping stone for getting connections and getting your foot in the door is, I think, a really great way to sort of transition from LD to policy.
It's a really good point about camp. I didn't even think about that. Let's see. Someone asked, how difficult is it to find a partner if you don't already know someone on the team well? Good question. And I would say, honestly, don't sweat this too much. At most college programs, there are plenty of people to choose from. Obviously, some teams are smaller, but there's usually still, right, people who need partners. And also the coaches typically take a role in forming those partnerships at the majority of colleges, I would say. So they are not just going to like leave it to, like to you as if it's like Lord of the Flies, and they're not going to just tell you to figure it out. But they will rather like meet with every debater. Like, this is how we do it at MSU. We meet with every single debater. We ask them about their goals. We ask them about all these different things, and we ask them their preferences, who they would like to debate with. And then we have coach input. And it's a process of meeting you halfway. So I think you have like more of a say in college because you get to, you're an adult and you know, have schedules and stuff like that you have to work around. But in general, like I wouldn't sweat this if I were you. Your coaches will find you a partner. There's probably someone on the team for you to debate with. Okay. Is it true that PF, while being the #1 event in high school, is rare in college debate? And what are the top 3 events in terms of numbers, popularity? Good question. So PF, yeah, is not really a thing in college. Like it kind of is. Like there's like a very, very small and new community for college PF, but like, yeah, it's not as much of a thing compared to high school. There are a lot of other college debate formats that exist. I would say college policy is kind of like, I don't know if I'd say like the most prevalent, but it is something that has been around for the longest time, like institutionally, like goes back a long time. And it's where I think you find teams that have the types of resources that we've been talking about tonight. Because like I know there are like some college teams, for example, like Western Kentucky, like they have an awesome program that primarily focuses on NFALD, and they're starting to dabble in college policy a bit. I know that the University of North Texas, like they also have been doing NFALD, but they also started going back to policy a little bit this year. So there are some teams that are flexible and kind of do both. And if that's something you're interested in, I definitely, encourage you to reach out like to those schools. But in general, I would say like college policy is, more popular in the sense that it's the most like institutional one and it gets, a lot of like high school debaters, but there are, some other events. So like if you go to a college where they don't have college policy, but you still want to debate in college because you just love debate, see if they have like a parley team, see if they have a mock trial team, see if they have one of the other variants of worlds going on, like no harm in trying that. And a lot of college teams have those available, even if they don't have college policy. Or if they do, yeah. Let's see. What's work week? Oh, great question. So a really cool thing about college debate is that typically all the teams get together in August before the classes start at their institution, and those dates vary depending on where you go, but they get together for a week to work on the new college topic. Because in high school policy, you know the topic so far in advance in high school. Like what the next year's topic is going to be so far in advance, but that's not true for college policy. And in high school, there's open evidence, right? People go to camp, they produce all these files that are going to be used for the upcoming year, and then all those files are like freely available and everything. But that's not true for college debate. We don't have the same thing. So people do a lot of their work and they get ready for the new season during this work week before classes. And so sometimes that's when teams like form their partnerships. They often do a lot of like team bonding stuff too. They do drills, they do like topic lectures, kind of almost like being at camp. It's almost like camp, the camp equivalent for college debate, I would say. And then go ahead.
And I just like work week is honestly one of my like favorite new experiences in college debate. I have very fond memories. It was literally a few months ago, but like, it's a very welcoming process in my own experience. And another thing about work week that you may not realize is some college programs can help you like do early move-in for that process. So you're able to get on campus earlier, you're able to get familiarize yourself with where you're going to be going to school. And it's a really unique and cool thing that it's like cool that most if not all college programs do, and like it shouldn't be something that intimidates you. I was definitely like very scared going into it, but it's a lot less intimidating than it sounds.
Fully agree. It's not scary at all. It's really fun. I love work week. Work week is like my favorite time. It's like my Christmas. I look forward to it like every year. And I think, a lot of like just like true debate nerds like really love work week because you get to get into the topic, you get to nerd out, cut new cards, everything feels new, fresh, and novel. It's really, really fun. And you usually get the benefit of moving in early, which no one else gets to do usually. So huge benefit, as Claire mentioned. Okay, someone asked, you've spoken about the debate side. What is the speech side like? Anyone here do speech? And how is it different from high school speech? So college speech is a thing. A lot of the times, like some of the college, programs that we are talking about, the ones who do college policy typically don't do speech. Some do, but a lot of them don't. Like MSU does not do college speech events. I don't think Emory does either. I know Dartmouth doesn't. USC, I don't think so, as far as I know.
I think the closest thing we have is we do have a British parliamentary.
Gotcha. That's right, British Parley. And then Wake, you all don't do like speech events or anything. Okay. Yeah. So there are some schools that do, but a lot of the times they are not the same schools that do like college policy. Some, like I know the university, I know Texas, UT, like they have a speech team, but there's not a lot of overlap with like college policy or anything. But yeah, still a good question. Still a good question. Any other questions from the audience members? One thing I was going to ask the panelists to do, if you're comfortable with it, is if you want to put your emails in the chat, because I think that all the attendees should be able to view that. That will be very useful in case they want to contact you about your college debate team, and maybe put like, remind them like what school like you're affiliated with. So that way attendees, you can utilize these people as resources. You can reach out to them to ask them about their teams, to ask them to put you in touch with like their college coach and stuff. But really want to emphasize that if you're all interested in college debate, like all it takes is just sending an email to a college coach to be like, hey, I'm interested. Doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be deep. You don't have to sign your rights away. You're just expressing interest and you're asking to learn more, and just ask to set up a Zoom. What's the worst that happens? You don't end up doing debate. That's okay. Just shoot your shot and don't be scared whatsoever. And utilize these emails and copy and paste them. Any other questions? Looks like we have no open questions right now. Since we're about 90 minutes in, I'm going to say that this is the last and final question, and it's one that I always like to ask people because I'm just curious. I want to know from the panelists anything that you can share related to like your debate role models or people that you have looked up to like in debate, people who have like really impacted you, or like the best piece of advice that you've received from like a coach, mentor, lab leader, etc. Something that stuck with you that you want, maybe other younger students to hear.
Can I just say before that, I am looking at the chat and it's saying like to host and panelists, so I don't think that it's visible to.
Good point. I will work on that. Thank you.
Also, if you can't see the emails or like you can't end up seeing them, because I don't think we're allowed to send it, just check our paradigms. Our names should be on like the Win Debate Instagram post, and my paradigm has my email. I think most people's do. And if not, you can ask around and generally find people's emails pretty easily.
Yeah, I can start off answering Jasmine's question that you just posed. One of my debate role models, and maybe this is a little corny, but is the director of debate at Michigan State, Carly Watson. She is absolutely spectacular. I mean, I think tying it a little bit into like, the aim of this discussion, I think that college debate is really unique because I think, get to develop a way better relationship with the coaches and the staff on the debate team than you do in high school. In high school, everyone's got a bunch of priorities. Maybe your debate coach is also, an English teacher and you don't get a lot of time, but I think that in college, a lot of time it's their full-time job. They'll spend time at the office, you'll spend time in the office, things like that. And so you just get a way better relationship. And I've absolutely found that to be huge for me in college. Like I mentioned, we were talking a little bit earlier about, this is white boy club. Carly is one of the people who we constantly are joking about those things to alleviate some of the stress. She's someone who I know I can go to with school things. She has a lot of experience dealing with sort of some of the institutional like honors college stuff, and strategically using her sort of negotiating power with the honors college to get us things like early class sign up or scholarships or even hockey jerseys, which fingers crossed we'll get those. And so I think that not only is she spectacular and everyone, should go and talk to her and talk about MSU debate, but I think it's a general experience that in college debate you get to develop these relationships with coaches in ways that you just don't really get to in high school. And it's a really lucky experience that we get to have.
Retweet.
I'll go next. The person I look up to is actually like I look up to so many people in the activity, but somebody like I'm always telling deserves all the recognition in the world is my high school coach, Carolyn Cook. She basically made the South program, the Shawnee Mission South debate program, into what it is today. And she's like constantly doing so many amazing things for the Kansas debate community that then trickles out into like the national circuit debate community in ways that like people don't even realize. And she is just like an amazing educator and was the first person to really teach me what it means to like treat debaters as people and students first, and like push debaters to be better people, which then nurtures better debaters. And she just cares about all of her students so deeply. She is like one of the most phenomenal people I think I've ever met. And yeah, go Cook. I love you.
Yeah, I can go. Someone who has played a big role in debate for me was Allison Harper. She doesn't currently work at Emory, but she recruited me, and was my coach for my freshman year. And she's not in debate right now, but I still see her really frequently. And I think it's a testament to how you don't have to actively be like working with someone for them to be someone who you can turn to whenever you need support, in debate. And also my like debate partner the last 3 years, AU, was really huge, and just helping like just like being someone who you kind of want to like be like in debates and help. Like I really appreciated how she would always just like use her voice, and not really like tolerate any disrespect, which I think is something that everyone can learn from. So those are two people who played a big role in my debate upbringing.
Yeah, I guess the person that comes to mind immediately is my current debate partner, Jenny, just because like she's my first college debate partner, and she's been like really supportive and like helped me make that transition, and also like has helped me a lot like getting used to being at Dartmouth and stuff. Also wanted to shout out Nina Friedman, who is somebody that like coaches Dartmouth, but also like I used to watch her debates a lot when I was in high school, and I've always really admired her, but she also like always makes me and Jenny feel really safe and comfortable at tournaments. So I've really appreciated those two people in college debate.
I guess I'll end not with a person, but with a piece of advice that I've heard from a variety of different people, but I just think it's sort of important, which is never think you know everything in debate. Because I think a lot of times, uh, debate becomes like not a healthy or whatever is when people think they know the one true way of doing debate or they know the one right way of doing debate. And I think whatever you take away from this call, whether you want to do college debate or not, and I know we've talked about a lot of the hype, like about a lot of the pros of college debate here, but there are definitely cons. And we certainly don't know everything there is to know about college debate. And talk to as many people as you can, because we're not sort of we don't know everything, and the more perspectives, the more opinions you get will help make your decision on where to go to college much more successful, because we certainly don't know everything about debate. You don't, and no one does. And sort of embracing that and just trying to learn as much as you can, I think, is something that's really helpful and something that you should go into college experience with.
I love that. And I think that's a great way to end the panel and to end like this wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for giving up all of this time to talk with students about college debate and sharing your experience and all of your wonderful pieces of advice. I know that we can't hear the audience clapping right now, but I think that they are clapping. And thank you all so much for being here. And thank you to Win and Debate for doing this as well. This could not have happened without them and organizing the event and putting in all this work into it. And I really hope that this inspires some high school students to pursue college debate, to at least give it a shot, even if you don't end up doing it, for 4 years. Just try. If that's like the one thing you take away from this, just try it out. What's the worst that happens? Try college debate. You're cut out for it. You're worth it. You're good enough, and you can absolutely do it. And there are a lot of really amazing benefits that come from college debate. Thank you all so much for being here. And yeah, thank you. Have a great night, and I hope everyone enjoys their winter break.
Thank you so much for hosting this, Jasmine. It was really awesome.